Before I share Emma's story, if you're someone who has ever struggled between family loyalty and self-respect, please hit that like button and let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. Your support means the world. My name is Emma, and I'm 26 years old. For 3 long years, I believed that being a good daughter meant giving up everything, my time, my dreams, my happiness, all for the sake of my family. I worked 2 jobs, paid the mortgage, handled the bills, and never once complained, even when my parents criticized my choices. I thought family loyalty was the most sacred thing. Growing up in a modest suburb outside Columbus, Ohio, I was always the responsible one. My dad, David, worked grueling shifts at a local factory, his hands stained with motor oil and his back aching from years of hard labor. My mom, Linda, juggled a part-time bookkeeping job but was often sidelined by chronic migraines. Then there was Ethan, my younger brother, who seemed to breeze through life effortlessly, charming, carefree, and endlessly supported. From a young age, I naturally took on the role of peacemaker. While Ethan rebelled or threw tantrums, I smoothed things over. When money was tight and my parents fought, I distracted Ethan with homework or games. Teachers praised me as mature and dependable. By senior year of high school, when Dad's hours were cut and Mom's health worsened, I stepped up. I got a part-time job at a grocery store, working evenings and weekends. The first time I handed over my paycheck to my parents, I remember their relief and gratitude, and how proud it made me feel. "Emma, you don't have to do this," Mom said, but I insisted, "We're family. We take care of each other." That became my motto for years to come. While my peers worried about loans or spent their weekends out, I worked harder, sending money home, living frugally, sacrificing my own future for theirs. After college, moving back home felt natural. I had a decent marketing job, Ethan was starting university, and I was saving rent money while holding the family together. When my parents asked me to take over the $1,847 mortgage payment, it felt like the right thing to do. I gradually took on more bills, picked up a second job, worked 60 hours a week, and made sure the household kept running smoothly. The praise I received from neighbors and relatives felt like validation, the perfect daughter, the family's financial backbone. But little did I realize, this devotion was slowly turning into an invisible cage, and the love I believed in was quietly shifting into expectation. At first, the changes were almost invisible, tiny comments, offhand remarks that seemed harmless but left a sting I couldn't ignore. During one Sunday dinner, Mom mentioned a coworker's daughter who had just gotten engaged at 24. "She has her whole life figured out," she said, glancing at me with that look. "Some girls know how to balance career and personal life." The words hit deep, but I brushed them aside. Weeks later, Dad joked, "All work and no play. Emma, when's the last time you went on a date?" I had only been on 2 awkward dates that year, both ending early because I was exhausted from working double shifts. Explaining that I barely had time to sleep felt futile. "That's what worries us," Mom said quietly, "You're 25, living at home with no social life. It's not healthy." The irony was suffocating. I was living at home because I was paying their mortgage. I had no social life because I worked extra hours to cover their bills. But somehow, these sacrifices had become flaws in their eyes. At family dinners, which were once sacred, the dynamic shifted. Ethan's stories about internships, friends, and social events commanded full attention, while my work achievements were met with polite, distant responses. "That's nice, honey," Dad would say, quickly steering the conversation back to Ethan. I felt like a background character in my own family. My contributions were only noticed when bills needed paying, but my dreams, thoughts, and feelings seemed invisible. The comparisons became sharper. One night, Mom spent 20 minutes praising Ethan's girlfriend, a psychology major with internships and study abroad plans. "Now that's a girl who knows how to seize life," she gushed. The unspoken message was clear: unlike me, she was living a correct life, full of risk, growth, and opportunity. When I suggested cutting back on my retail job to focus on my marketing career, the response was cold. "Nobody forced you to take on so much responsibility," Mom snapped. "You made those choices yourself." Yes, I had chosen to help, but it was out of love, not a burden I deserved to be scolded for. Dad's subtle criticisms followed every small indulgence. A new jacket after months of saving. Some people have money to throw around. Thinking of a short vacation. Who can afford to be irresponsible these days? Meanwhile, Ethan spent freely on video games, nights out, spring break trips, all supported and celebrated by Mom and Dad. When he bought an expensive laptop, they praised his investment in the future. When I bought a $10 book, I was frivolous. Slowly, I became less a daughter and more a tenant in the house, paying rent, excluded from decisions, treated as an obligation rather than family. When they redecorated without asking me, Mom said, "It's our house." I had been paying the mortgage for almost 2 years. The possessive language felt like a slap. The emotional distance grew. They stopped asking about my day or showing pride in my work. Their gratitude faded into grudging tolerance, like they merely endured my presence. The most painful blow. They started encouraging me to leave. Comments about independence, pointed questions about my future living situation became routine. Had I misunderstood our arrangement? Was I an imposition? The tension became unbearable, thick enough to suffocate. Yet I told myself it was temporary: stress, health issues, job worries. The breaking point came sooner than I expected, over something that should have been simple: redecorating the house. Mom and Dad had been excitedly planning updates for months: new paint, furniture, colors that would finally make this place feel like home again. But then I learned what saved up really meant. They expected me to pay the $3,500 renovation bill. When I hesitated and asked if I could at least have a say in the choices, Mom's response was icy: "It's our house, Emma. We've lived here 28 years. We know what we want." I had been paying the mortgage for almost 2 years, yet I was completely excluded. I swallowed the sting and agreed to cover the costs, telling myself happy parents meant a calmer home. At the same time, my career was reaching a critical moment. My manager offered me a promotion, more responsibility, longer hours, and finally, a significant pay raise. But to accept it, I'd have to cut back my retail job hours. I shared the news at dinner, expecting celebration. Instead, the reaction was immediate and cold. "So you're going to abandon your family responsibilities for your career?" Dad's voice was heavy with accusation. "It's not abandoning anything," I said, trying to explain. "It's a chance to advance professionally, which will benefit everyone." "Sounds selfish to me," Mom added sharply. "We depend on that income, Emma. You can't just decide to make less money for a fancy title." Their response revealed everything. I wasn't their daughter chasing dreams, I was a source of income. My promotion wasn't an achievement, it was a threat. Ethan came home for spring break during this time. While I was working 60 hours a week and funding household repairs, he was planning an expensive Cancun trip, and Mom and Dad told him they would help pay. I watched in disbelief as they handed him $800 for a party vacation while criticizing me for wanting to grow my career. The double standard was undeniable. Grace, a close friend who visited that weekend, noticed everything. At dinner, she gently pointed out how much I contributed and how little appreciation I received. The silence that followed her words was deafening. Later, Grace asked me privately, "Do you feel appreciated in this house?" The question hit me like a blow. "Of course," I said, automatically. "They're my family." "No," she pressed. "Do they treat you like someone they're grateful to have, or like someone they expect things from?" That night, lying awake, I replayed months of interactions through a new lens. When was the last time they thanked me? Asked about my dreams? Treated me like a daughter, not a paycheck? 2 days later, I overheard them talking in the kitchen, unaware I'd come home early. "I wish Emma would just move out already," Mom said. "She acts like she owns this place just because she pays some bills." "She's becoming a burden," Dad agreed. "Maybe we should start encouraging her to find her own place." They wanted me gone. The people I had sacrificed everything for saw me as a problem, a burden to be removed. That night, I made a decision. I would have a conversation about boundaries, respect, and what our family really meant. I had no idea it would shatter everything. I spent 3 days preparing. Writing down what I needed to say, rehearsing, trying to predict their reactions. I wanted this to be honest, respectful, a chance to fix what was broken. I chose Sunday dinner, hoping the familiar setting would help. Ethan was home, so we'd all be there. I made my favorite pasta, set the table carefully, and took a deep breath. "Can we talk about something that's been bothering me?" I began after we finished eating, my voice steady. "I feel like there's tension in our family lately. I want us to communicate better and make sure everyone feels valued." The response was immediate and cold. Dad crossed his arms. Mom's expression shifted to pure annoyance. "What tension?" Dad asked, defensive. "I feel like nothing I do is appreciated," I said, carefully. "I want to understand why." Mom laughed, no humor in her voice. "Emma, we gave you a roof over your head for 26 years. We raised you, fed you, clothed you, paid for your education. And now you say you're undervalued?" I was stunned. This wasn't the conversation I expected. "I'm grateful for everything you did," I replied. "But I'm talking about now, how we interact as adults. I feel my contributions aren't appreciated." Dad's voice rose. "What contributions?" "Paying some bills. That's just being an adult, not some special favor." The word freeloader hit me like a punch. After years of working 2 jobs to support them, I was being called a freeloader. "I pay the mortgage, groceries, utilities, Ethan's textbooks, car repairs, medical bills. How is that freeloading?" I asked, voice shaking. "That was your choice," Mom snapped. "You decided to take on responsibility. Now you're trying to control us." "Control? How?" I asked, confused and hurt. Ethan spoke for the first time. "You act like you own this place. You make us feel guilty whenever we spend money." Betrayal from my brother cut deeper than anything. "I thought we were a team," I said, tears welling up. Dad stood, face red. "You're 26, no life, no boyfriend, no friends, living at home and acting like a martyr because you pay bills instead of living your own life." Every word was a knife, attacking not just my help, but my whole being. Mom added, "You're selfish, Emma. You hide behind family responsibility because you're scared to live your own life. You use money to feel important." Dad accused, "You manipulate us financially. That's not love, that's blackmail." I tried to explain, but they kept tearing me down. "You're pathetic," Mom spat. "Your entire identity is being needed by us. You have no life outside this family." Ethan said, "We can't enjoy anything without feeling guilty. We can't make plans without considering you." I protested, "I don't do that." But doubts crept in, had I become too controlling? "No," Dad said firmly. "We're tired of feeling guilty living our own lives in our own house. This is my house too." I shouted. "I pay the mortgage. I have a right to be involved." Silence. Mom said slowly, "That's the problem. You think paying bills gives you ownership. That's not how family works." "Then how does it work?" I asked, heartbreaking. "Family means respecting boundaries and living your own life," Dad said coldly. "Not controlling others through money." The accusation was the final straw. If that's how you feel, I said, standing, maybe I should leave. They looked at each other, and Mom's words hit me forever. Yes. Maybe you should. You're 26. It's time to live independently instead of hiding behind family obligations. The room spun. They weren't just letting me go, they wanted me gone. You want me to leave? I asked, voice barely a whisper. We think it's best, Dad said. We need space to be a family without being watched. Ethan nodded. That betrayal crushed me. Get out and never come back, Dad shouted. We don't need your guilt trips or money. Their rejection echoed in my ears. I looked at their faces, hoping for regret. Instead, I saw relief. Okay, I said quietly. I'll leave. For the first time, I meant it. I packed my bags, leaving behind almost everything: furniture, books, appliances, the life I had built. No one stopped me. No apologies. No attempts to fix things. Ethan helped carry my bags, chatting casually like this was just a normal moving day. I left the house key on the counter and walked out without a goodbye. The door closing behind me felt final and freeing. Grace welcomed me into her apartment without hesitation, asking only if I was safe and needed anything. That first night, I lay on her couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying the confrontation over and over. I kept waiting for my phone to ring, an apology, an explanation, anything. But it never came. The first weeks were harder than I imagined. Tears spilled unexpectedly, in grocery stores, at work, in moments when silence suddenly felt too loud. Grace's apartment felt like a foreign country compared to the home I left behind. But something unexpected began to emerge. For the first time in years, I had money left after paying bills. Without the mortgage, utilities, groceries for 4 people, and constant emergencies, my paycheck stretched farther than ever. I could buy organic groceries without calculating costs. Replace worn-out work clothes without guilt. Even buy coffee from the shop near my office instead of making it at home. At first, these small luxuries felt shameful, like betraying the values I'd lived by for years. But soon, my work performance improved dramatically. No more rushing off to doctor's appointments or taking calls about household crises. I could focus fully on my projects, attend networking events, and pursue professional growth I'd put off. My manager noticed. You seem different, more confident, more engaged, she said during my review. Keep it up. I began therapy, partly because Grace suggested it, partly because I needed to understand what happened. Dr. Kim introduced me to terms I'd never heard before: parentification, codependency, emotional manipulation. She explained how taking on adult responsibilities too young can create unhealthy dynamics, where your worth ties to what you provide, not who you are. Through therapy, I saw clearly how my family had become dependent on me without giving emotional care in return. I'd enabled their dependence by sacrificing my own growth and independence. 3 months passed without contact from them. I built new routines, formed friendships, and explored hobbies I'd abandoned. I took a painting class, joined a book club, and even went on a few dates with a colleague who made me laugh and valued me. My new apartment was small, but it was mine. I chose every piece of furniture, every color, every decoration. I cooked meals I enjoyed. Watched movies I wanted. Made choices based on my desires, not family obligations. The independence was intoxicating. I had forgotten what it felt like to live for myself. To make decisions that honored my own needs. I started saving for goals unrelated to anyone else: a trip to Europe, graduate school, a down payment on a home of my own. Most surprisingly, I barely missed the constant drama and criticism I left behind. I hadn't realized how much energy I spent managing others' feelings. Without that weight, I felt lighter and more hopeful than I had in years. I was building a life that belonged to me, and for the first time, I was truly happy. It was a Tuesday evening, 3 months and 2 weeks after I left. I was grocery shopping, standing in the pasta aisle, when my phone buzzed. The screen lit up with my dad's name, David. My stomach dropped. For a moment, I thought about ignoring it. But curiosity won. The message was short and cold. Why haven't you paid the mortgage? 6 words. No, how are you? No, we miss you. No, can we talk? Just a demand for money. In that instant, everything became clear. They didn't want me back as their daughter. They wanted their ATM machine back. I took a screenshot and sent it to Grace with the caption, "Apparently, I was never actually unwelcome, just temporarily inconvenient." I crafted my response carefully. I thought I wasn't welcome anymore. Within 30 seconds, my phone rang. Emma, Dad's voice was different, panicked, desperate. "Dad," I said calmly, leaning on the shopping cart. "We need to talk," he said. "There's been a misunderstanding about that night," he explained. "What kind?" I asked, curious despite myself. "We didn't mean for you to leave permanently. We were upset. We said things we didn't mean," he rushed out. "I don't think so," I replied. "Healthy families don't tell their children to get out and never come back unless they mean it. Please, we love you. We miss you." This got out of hand, he pleaded. Their love was tied to their financial need. "How are things financially?" I asked, already knowing. "It's been tough. We're behind on payments. The bank sent foreclosure notices." "What about the money you saved by not having me around?" "Well, Mom's hours were cut. Ethan had unexpected expenses." I could hear Linda's voice pleading in the background, then Dad passed the phone to her. "Honey, we've been worried. We didn't want to intrude if you needed space." The lie was so blatant it almost made me laugh. They had all my contact info. If they wanted anything besides money, they could have reached out months ago. "We made mistakes," Mom said. "But we're family. Family works through problems together." "What problems?" I asked. "The financial crisis," she said, dropping the pretense. "We could lose the house." Their emotional manipulation was textbook. They made their crisis my problem. "How much do you owe?" 3 months behind, about $6,000 with fees. $6,000. 3 months of mortgage they expected me to cover after telling me to leave and never come back. "What happened to the money you were saving?" "Patricia's hours were cut. Ethan had expenses." "Ethan is 23, I said. "He can get student loans or a part-time job. He needs to learn responsibility." "That's cruel," Mom said. "It's not cruel to expect an adult to support themselves," I replied. "We want our family back together," Linda said. "If I came back, what would be different?" "We'd be more appreciative," Dad said quickly. "Make sure you feel valued." Empty promises, no accountability for how they hurt me, no plan to change. "And if I can't move back soon?" "We'd still need help with the mortgage." There it was, whether I returned or not, they wanted my money. I looked around the grocery store, people living their lives, making choices about dinner and weekends. I thought about my peaceful apartment, my growing savings, my new sense of self-worth. "I'll call you back," I said, and hung up. For the first time, I knew exactly what I would say. I waited 2 days, not to decide, but to prepare. "Emma, thank God. We've been waiting to hear from you." "I've made my decision," I said, calm and steady. "What do you mean?" Linda's voice cracked with disbelief. "I won't be moving back. And I won't be helping with the mortgage or any other financial obligations." Silence stretched between us like a chasm. But we didn't mean what we said that night, David pleaded. We were upset. We want you home. No, you don't, I replied. You want my money. If you wanted me, you would have called months ago to apologize. You would have reached out because you missed me, not when you missed my contributions. That's not fair, Linda said, her voice soft but desperate. We gave you space because we thought that's what you wanted. You gave me space because it was easier than admitting you were wrong, I said. I could hear muffled voices in the background before David spoke again. Emma, I understand you're hurt. But we're facing foreclosure. Surely your anger isn't worth more than our family's security. Your financial security isn't my responsibility, I said firmly. You told me I was manipulative for making myself necessary to your finances, I reminded them. You said I was controlling for having opinions about money. You called me selfish for prioritizing my career. So I removed myself from your financial situation entirely. You're being vindictive, Linda accused. I'm protecting myself from being taken advantage of again. You spent 3 years taking my money while criticizing me, I said. You made me feel guilty for every personal purchase but expected me to fund your wants without question. That's not a relationship I'll continue. We're family, David said, voice pleading. Yes, and family supports each other's growth, celebrates achievements, and treats each other with respect, I said. When was the last time you did any of those things for me? The question hung unanswered. We'll do better, Linda promised. Just help us through this crisis. You had 3 years to treat me better while I was helping, I said. You chose to take me for granted. I'm not giving you another chance. What about Ethan? David asked, trying one last card. He might have to drop out if we lose the house. Ethan is 23, I said. He can get student loans or a part-time job. He needs to learn responsibility. That's cruel, Linda said. It's not, I said. It's called boundaries. The call continued with guilt, empty promises, and veiled threats. I listened calmly and then ended it with words I'd prepared for months. I was your ATM while you criticized me. I sacrificed my social life, career, and self-worth to keep you comfortable. You didn't appreciate it. Now you only miss it because you need money. I'm not coming back to be taken for granted again. Emma, please, David said one last time. You told me to get out and never come back. I respected that. Now respect my decision. Don't contact me unless it's not about money. I hung up and blocked their numbers. The relief was overwhelming. For the first time in years, I wasn't responsible for anyone else's finances, feelings, or choices. I was free. 6 months later, I got a promotion with a significant raise. I moved into a beautiful apartment with a balcony overlooking a park. I started dating someone who valued my ambition and independence. I took a vacation to Italy with Grace, something I never could have done while supporting my family. Most importantly, I learned to value myself the way I always valued others. I discovered my worth isn't in how much I sacrifice or solve problems. It's in simply being me, kind, hardworking, thoughtful. I never heard from my family again. Through social media, I learned they lost the house, downsized, and Ethan transferred to a community college with a part-time job. I felt sadness for their struggles, but no guilt. They made choices that led to their situation. Their recovery is their responsibility. The greatest lesson I learned is this. Love should never require you to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. True family supports your growth and celebrates your success. It doesn't exploit loyalty or take sacrifice for granted. I once thought being a good daughter meant sacrificing everything. Now I know it means respecting yourself enough to expect respect in return. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is let people face the consequences of their choices. That's how they learn. Walking away was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it was the moment I finally learned to love myself. Today, I'm happy, free, surrounded by people who value me for who I am, not for what I can provide. If you've ever struggled between family loyalty and self-respect, know this. You deserve kindness and respect, just as much as you give it. Thank you for listening to my story. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more stories about personal growth and family dynamics. Remember to take care of yourself, because you matter.